look on defense table and to see what's being, without commentary from the state. I am objecting to the state and the fact that they are looking at the defense table, looking in front of Mr. Cruz and at the contents of potentially what we are writing, attorney-client privileged communication. So I would object to, other than them glancing over, they're glancing enough at the table to be able to potentially read what it is we are writing to Mr. Cruz and to each other.
Judge, I saw Ms. Curtis walk in holding the paper. That's how I saw it. I can't see what's on their table, and I'm certainly not looking to see what's on their table. But when there's an attorney walking through the area, the public area, holding colored pencils and holding a little Pikachu outline on a piece of paper, yeah, I saw that. But I don't see what's on their table. I saw it coming in.
Okay, Judge, I apologize for interrupting the court. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the comments that were made about whatever notes that allegedly were taken yesterday by Mr. Cruz and his ability to take said notes. I'm not...
Okay, your objection's overruled. I already told you that the only clip of the news that I watched unintentionally, that was the headline. So that's common knowledge. I have not once seen the state trying to look at your table. And I'm looking at your table right now. I cannot make out one single word of what's being written. I have not seen the state do that. If I did, I would admonish them. All right, let's move on and bring in group number 2.
Judge, one thing, please.
Yes?
This laptop have to be moved from there. It cannot be in.
Why don't you tell them where it needs to be?
I'm just going to close it.
Well, if you can close it, but it cannot sit in.
It's closed.
I'm happy to provide another small table behind if you need it for your laptops.
Judge, is there a way that we will be able to move one of the court, and I can move it back before the end of the day to just put it in front of us?
Put what in front of you?
If the court would permit me to take one of the court's, I guess these are like files that have papers on top of them. Is the court...
To put it in front of you?
Correct, Judge.
Miss Browdy, did you not hear what the whole conversation? They have to have a straight view of Mr. Cruz for security reasons. If you put one of those things up, it's 18 inches tall. You're not going to be able to see him.
That's fine, Judge.
Well, what I said was I'm happy to put, like one of those tables, TV tables, I think they're called. I have one like that in my office that's smaller. If you need an extra room to put your things, I can put it next to you or you can put it behind you. So if you need more room to set stuff, that's not a problem.
I understand. If we need that, I'll let the court know.
Okay, thank you.
Jurors are entering.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience. We're trying to social distance you all as much as possible, so if you would just sit on the chair that is numbered and skip the one that's turned around, and you can have a seat, okay? Thank you. Okay, the jurors are present. Everyone may be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please swear in the prospective jurors?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that you will answer truthfully all questions asked of you as prospective jurors? Thank you. Please sit.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Judge Elizabeth Scher, and I'm going to be the judge presiding over jury selection today. The matter before us is a criminal case of the state of Florida versus Nicholas Cruz. Mr. Cruz is charged by information with 4 counts. Attempted aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer, battery on a law enforcement officer, depriving an officer means of protection, and attempted use of self-defense weapon against a law enforcement officer. These charges stem from an altercation that occurred at the Broward County Jail in November of 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of jury selection is to find a number of people who can serve as fair and impartial jurors in this case. I want to bring to your attention that some of you may have heard the name Nicholas Cruz. You may have followed the news reports regarding a school shooting at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on February 14th of 2018. I want to emphasize to you that although Nicholas Cruz is the accused in this case, we are not here about the Parkland shooting. You're not being asked to serve as a juror on the Parkland shooting case. This is a different case. It is a separate incident, and it has nothing to do with the Parkland School shooting. This case that we are here for today again stems from a different altercation that occurred in the Broward County Jail in November of 2018, many months after the Parkland shooting incident. The specific charges in this case I'm going to define to you now. Excuse me. Count 1 of the information charges the defendant, Nicholas Cruz, on November 13th, 2018, alleging that he intentionally attempted to touch or strike Sergeant Raymond Beltran, a Broward County law enforcement officer, against his will with a deadly weapon, specifically a conductive electronic weapon, knowing that Sergeant Beltran was a law enforcement officer and that he was engaged in the lawful performance of his duties. Count 2, the state's information charges the defendant, Nicholas Cruz, with actually and intentionally touching or striking Sergeant Raymond Beltran against his will, while knowing Sergeant Beltran was a law enforcement officer engaged in the lawful performance of his duties. Count 3, depriving an officer means of protection. On November 13, 2018, Nicholas Cruz is alleged to have unlawfully deprived a law enforcement officer, Sergeant Raymond Beltran, of his weapon, specifically a conductive electronic weapon, and the weapon was used by Sergeant Beltran as a means to defend himself. Finally, count 4, the defendant is charged with attempted use of self-defense weapon against law enforcement. On the same date, the defendant is accused of knowingly and willfully attempting to use a non-lethal electric weapon or device, specifically a conductive electronic weapon, against a law enforcement officer, Sergeant Raymond Beltran, while Sergeant Beltran was engaged in the performance of his duties to supervise Nicholas Cruz. Ladies and gentlemen, in the United States, all defendants are presumed innocent. Nicholas Cruz is presumed innocent under our Constitution. The presumption of innocence remains with the defendant throughout the course of the trial, and it is up to the state to prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Right now, Nicholas Cruz is presumed innocent, and he will remain so unless and until the state proves otherwise. So if I were to ask you right now to reach a verdict, your verdict would have to be not guilty, and that is because the state has not presented any evidence against the defendant at this point. At this time, I'm going to have the state and the defense introduce themselves. State, whenever you're ready.
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria Schneider. I'm an assistant state attorney, and I am assigned to handle this case. My colleague Sherry Tate is helping me during jury selection.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gabe Ehrman. This is Jacqueline Bradley. We represent Mr. Nicholas Cruz, along with Lisa Lawler and Gabrielle Darden, who's in the corner. At times, you may see Ms. Darden in and out of the courtroom. Good morning.
Okay, by a show of hands, is there anyone here who personally knows, and by personally know I mean you have met them before, either of the assistant state attorneys, that's the state, the two ladies at the state's table, any of the defense attorneys, or the defendant? If you personally know any of these individuals, please raise your hand now. There's no one in the first group? Is there anyone in the back group by the doors? Okay, for the record, no one is raising their hand. Ladies and gentlemen, even though this case is not the Parkland shooting case, I must gauge your knowledge of Nicholas Cruz and whether the Parkland shooting in order to ascertain whether you can be fair and impartial. If you have not heard the name Nicholas Cruz and you have not heard of the Parkland shooting, you are under a direct court order to keep it that way. You may not, under any circumstances, try to look up his name or ask anyone in person or over the internet or do any electronic research, go on Wikipedia, Google, any of these websites to try to find out. Even if you say, that name might sound familiar, but I don't remember exactly why. Keep it that way. Your knowledge about Nicholas Cruz from this point on should remain exactly as it was when you walked in this courtroom. So as much as you know or do not know, you must keep it that way. You must not do any outside research about this case or the people and places involved in this case. You are under a court order not to use any type of social media or means of the internet to look up anything about this case. What you know about this case, until you're excused, from this point forward, will include only what we talk about in here. You also may not go back to the jury room and discuss what happens in this courtroom with regard to this case. You are free to talk to your fellow juror members, your friends, your family about anything else, just not this. And you are under that order, and that order is in effect until you are excused from jury service from my courtroom. And when I say my courtroom, I mean Division FJ, courtroom 7750, Judge Elizabeth Scher. Even under those circumstances, if you're excused from this case to go back and potentially serve on another case, you may not discuss what goes on in this courtroom and what went on in this courtroom. You may not whisper, I was on such and such a case, to any other prospective juror. Does everyone understand this order? Please answer out loud. Yes. Thank you very much. By a show of hands, and I would ask you just please initially just to raise your hand, and when I call your name, put your hand down. By a show of hands, is there anyone here who feels that they cannot presume Nicholas Cruz innocent in this case based upon their knowledge or feelings of the Parkland School shooting, understanding that the shooting has nothing to do with the charges in this case? By a show of hands, if you feel you cannot presume Mr. Cruz innocent, I'm going to take this first section first. Please raise your hand if you cannot presume Nicholas Cruz innocent. Okay, I see juror number 6. Juror number 10, Ms. Juror number 2, Ms. Dobson. Is there anyone else? And I also have juror number 5. Is there anyone else who feels they cannot presume Nicholas Cruz innocent? Mr. With. Okay, other than your knowledge of the Parkland, let's say you don't know anything about the Parkland case, is there any other reason that anyone in this first section cannot presume Mr. Cruz innocent? Mr. 8 and Ms. In the back section, is there anyone who feels they cannot presume Mr. Cruz innocent based upon their knowledge of the Parkland case or of Mr. Cruz himself? I'm going to start with the first row, and I'm going to ask when I call your name if you'd please put it down so I know that I've marked you. I have Miss. You can put your hand down. Mr. 17, juror number 20, Miss. Juror number 21, juror number 24, 25. Final row, I see juror number 28, juror number 29, juror number 30, number 31. Okay, I missed Miss Lynn too. Is there anyone whose name I did not call that had their hand up and I may have missed them, and if I did, I apologize. Okay. Is there anyone in the back row that has not already raised their hand that feels perhaps they don't know anything about the case, the Parkland case, but they still feel that they cannot follow the law and the Constitution and presume the defendant innocent for another reason? Please raise your hand. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go over the schedule of this case with you now. If you are selected to serve, you will be required to come back on October 18th at 1 p.m. through and including October 22nd at 5 p.m. Again, that's not this coming week, it's the following week. So there'll be about 10 days of a break, and then you'll come back October 18th at 1 p.m., which is a Monday, and you'll be required to serve through and including Friday, October 22nd at 5 p.m. We work approximately 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., give or take a few minutes, and we take approximately 1 hour for lunch. If you are worried that your summons says October 6th and not October 18th, that's fine. We'll take care of that. We'll give you the documentation that you need for your employers, for your schools, for whomever you need it, to show that you are going to be required to be serving on a juror in this case. In addition, if you are selected to serve and you are a full-time employee, there is a county ordinance that requires your employer not only to excuse you and have your job waiting for you when you get back, but also to pay you in your absence. And I'm also happy to provide a copy of that law to you if you get any trouble from your employer. So at this time, I'm going to ask about scheduling hardships. Again, October 18th is a Monday from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then the 19th, which is a Tuesday, the 20th, which is a Wednesday, the 21st, which is a Thursday, and the 22nd, which is a Friday, from approximately 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. If anyone here has a great hardship, I'm going to ask you about it in just a moment. A great hardship, for example, would be somebody who owns their own business and cannot survive if they don't work. And a week out of work would mean a big hit financially, one that would not be overcome. That's a great hardship. Another example of a great hardship would be that you are a single parent and that you don't have anyone to care for your children, no family members, no one else available to care for your children if you were asked to serve. Someone who is a full-time employee of a business and is going to be paid to miss work, that's an inconvenience. That's not a hardship, because you're still going to be paid and you're still going to have your job when you're finished. So that would not be a great hardship. Again, that's not an exhaustive list, it's just an example. Another example of a great hardship would be that you do not 100% understand the English language. If you are a person where English is your second language, and perhaps you understand 80 or 90% of what's going on, I commend you for knowing more than one language. That's more than what I know. But we need you to understand 100% of what's going on. And if you don't understand 100%, please let me know at this time. In this first section, if you have a great hardship, please raise your hand now. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand in the first section. There are no great hardships, and there is no one that does not have a 100% grasp of the English language. Okay, thank you. In this second section, by a show of hands, is there anyone who has a great hardship with the schedule, in this case, again, October 18th through the 22nd, which is about 10 days from now? I see one hand, Mr. Juror number 28. Is there anyone else? I see Miss Clark has her hand raised. Okay, her hand raised. Anyone else? You are juror number for the English. Okay, what is your language, your native language? What language do you speak?
Creole and French.
Okay, good for you, but not English 100%. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Is there anyone else in this section that has a hardship, a great hardship? Okay, at this time, I would ask the following people to go with the staff. You are going to be required to return on October 18th at 1 p.m. You're going to be given documentation that shows the date and the time you're supposed to return, as well as contact information. Juror number 1. Juror number 3, juror number 7, Ms. Saccharin. Juror number 9, juror number 13, in this section, the following people are required to return on Monday the 18th, October 18th at 1 p.m. Juror number 19, juror number 18, Ms. 14, Juror number 22. Juror number 23. Juror number 27. May I please see the lawyer's sidebar? Ladies and gentlemen, the rest of you are going to be excused to return to the jury room. Again, you're not going to be asked to come back to me and this courtroom in this case, but please, if you go back to the jury room and you're sitting in a group of people, don't tell them what happened here. Please do not do that. The people in the clerk's office are going to be listening, and please don't do it, okay? Have a nice day, have a nice afternoon, and I wish you all the best. Thank you. Okay, so the deputy just informed me that juror number 1, Ms. Although she didn't say anything, she won't fill out the paperwork that they have for them back there, which is like their contact information, and she says she's not coming back and she's not filling out the paperwork. So I asked the deputy to tell her just to act like nothing's happening, because I don't want it to spread like, this is probably not a good example, but like the COVID virus, and keep her there and then excuse everyone else, and then I can either talk to her or we can just excuse her. I just don't want the other ones to know that that's a possibility.
Does the defense want her spoken to before we let her go?
Well, I don't know, the state would be the one.
I don't care. We can let her
I'm fine letting her go. I mean, ordinarily I would not want to do that because I wouldn't want everybody to think that's, yeah.
go. Yeah, we would ask that you not do it in front of the other jurors. I think
Sure,
that's
I'm not going
separate.
to. No,
I don't have a problem.
Bring her back into the courtroom.
Okay, will you bring her back in then, please? Hi, Miss Will. Have a seat right there. Did you change your mind?
I would love to do it,
Okay.
but unfortunately, 2 nights ago, so I wasn't able to say anything. I have the paper here. I collapsed at dinner.
Oh, I'm so
and
sorry.
I need to rest.
Okay.
But I came because I don't want to be charged.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I need to spend a few days at home to rest. On the 17th, I have to go somewhere. I have a problem with my foot.
Okay, ma'am.
I
You don't have to say anything else, ma'am.
I work
That's.
in the state, so I'm somebody who I would give my service to my
But if you have a medical problem and you are unable to concentrate, and I can't give all the lists of hardships, but that's a hardship. You don't have to serve. You're excused. Thank you very much for letting me know. I hope you feel better. Yes, you have to go back to the jury room. Actually, Charlene, may I see her card, please? Another panel, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we have group number 3 waiting, so as soon as you all have finished your list, we're going to bring those individuals in. Huh? 14, Mr. Problem. Excuse me? The on the group 2. Sir, did you change your mind about being available to serve?
Yes, I think.
And what is the issue, sir?
It's more of a feeling than a real answer.
Okay, you're uncomfortable serving as a juror in this case?
Yeah, when I was sitting over there, I thought I would have been fine, but just after I got up there,
You're unsure as to whether you can presume the defendant innocent?
something like that.
Okay. I thank you for letting us know, and I appreciate your
I'm sorry. I thought
No,
it could be honest.
don't be sorry, and the fact that you tried means something. So, thank you, sir. You're excused. You don't have to return. Thank you.
Mr. Wolf.
That's Mr. Why is my... Good morning. You all may be seated. We stand for you. Thank you very much for your patience. This is only going to take about 15 minutes, and then you're going to be excused from here. Okay, the jurors are present. You all may be seated. Madam Clerk, would you please swear in the panel?
Please stand. Please stand. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that will answer truthfully all questions asked of you as prospective jurors? Yes. Thank you. You can see it.
Your Honor,
Yes.
maybe quickly, briefly, 2 seconds, I'm sidebar.
Okay. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Elizabeth Scher, and I'm going to be the judge presiding over jury selection today. The matter before us is a criminal case of the state of Florida versus Nicholas Cruz. Nicholas Cruz is charged by information with attempted aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer, battery on a law enforcement officer, depriving an officer means of protection, and attempted use of a self-defense weapon against a law enforcement officer. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of jury selection is to find a number of people who can serve as fair and impartial jurors in this case. I want to bring to your attention that some of you may have heard the name Nicholas Cruz. Others may not have. If you're one of those that's not heard of him, that's fine. Leave it that way. You may have followed the news reports regarding a school shooting at the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida on February 14th. Again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, leave it that way. Do not attempt to do any research or look it up or find out from anyone sitting next to you or on the internet or from anyone at all. Now, although Nicholas Cruz is the accused in this case, we are not here for the Parkland shooting case. It is important to emphasize that you are not being asked to serve as a juror on the Parkland shooting case. This is a separate case. It involves a separate incident and is not related to the Parkland shooting whatsoever. Again, this is not the Parkland school shooting case. This case that we are here for today stems from a separate altercation that occurred in the Broward County Jail in November of 2018, many months after the November 14th shooting in Parkland. The specific charges that the defendant is facing in this case are as follows. Attempted aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer. The state is accusing the defendant on November 13, 2018 of intentionally attempting to touch or strike Sergeant Raymond Beltran, a Broward Sheriff's Office law enforcement officer, against his will with a deadly weapon, specifically a conductive electronic weapon, knowing that Sergeant Beltran was a law enforcement officer and that he was engaged in the lawful performance of his duties. Count 2, the state is accusing Nicholas Cruz of battery on a law enforcement officer by actually and intentionally touching or striking Sergeant Raymond Beltran against his will, while knowing Sergeant Beltran was a law enforcement officer engaged in the performance of his legal duties. Count 3, the state is charging Nicholas Cruz with depriving an officer means of protection by unlawfully depriving Sergeant Beltran of his weapon, specifically a conductive electronic weapon, and that weapon was used by Sergeant Beltran as a means to defend himself. Count 4, the state is alleging an attempted use of a self-defense weapon against a law enforcement officer. They're accusing the defendant of knowingly and willfully attempting to use a non-lethal electric weapon or device, specifically a conductive electronic weapon, against a law enforcement officer, Sergeant Raymond Beltran, while Sergeant Raymond Beltran was engaged in the performance of his duty to supervise Nicholas Cruz. Members of the jury, in the United States, according to the United States Constitution, all defendants are presumed innocent. Nicholas Cruz is presumed innocent. The presumption of innocence stays with the defendant throughout the course of the trial, and it is up to the state to try and prove that the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Right now, the defendant is presumed innocent, and he will remain so unless and until the state proves otherwise. If I were to ask each of you right now to reach a verdict, your verdict would have to be not guilty, excuse me, and that is because the state has not presented any evidence against the defendant at this point. Does everyone understand the United States Constitution presumption of innocence? Please answer out loud.
Yes.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to ask the state and the defense to introduce themselves and the defendant. Please pay close attention because I'm going to ask whether or not you personally know any of these individuals after they have introduced themselves, okay? State, go ahead.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maria Schneider. I am the Assistant State Attorney who is assigned to handle this case. My colleague is Shari Tate, and Ms. Tate is going to be helping me during jury selection.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Gabe Ehrman. This is Jacqueline Browdy, Lisa Lawler, and Gabrielle Darden. You may see in and out of the courtroom at times, and we represent Mr. Nicholas Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Ehrman. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, by a show of hands, is there anyone here who personally knows, meaning at one point you have met them or had some interaction with them, either of the assistant state attorneys, the ladies at the table right here, or any of the defense counsel or the defendant in this case? Does anyone personally know any of these individuals? If you do, please raise your hand. Okay, for the record, there is no one that is raising their hand. Even though this case is not the Parkland shooting case, we must gauge your knowledge of Nicholas Cruz in the Parkland shooting case in order to ascertain whether you can be fair and impartial jurors to serve in this case, where the defendant is charged with an attempted aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer. By a show of hands, is there anyone here who feels they cannot presume Nicholas Cruz innocent and require the state to prove the charges based upon their knowledge or feelings of Nicholas Cruz or the Parkland shooting, understanding that this case has nothing to do with the Parkland shooting? And I'm going to just go ahead and repeat that so that I can make sure you understand. Is there anyone here who feels they cannot follow the law and presume the defendant innocent and require the state to prove the allegations because you have heard of the defendant Nicholas Cruz or because you have heard of or been exposed to the Parkland shooting, or maybe you know somebody who's been affected by that incident? By a show of hands, please raise your hand, and when I call your name, you can go ahead and put it down because you'll know that I've already marked you down. Okay, in the first section, I see Mr. You can put your hand down. Miss Juror number 4, Miss Tom. I also see juror number 8, Miss Juror number 10. Did I miss anyone in this section here? So everyone else, if you did not raise your hand, you can presume the defendant Nicholas Cruz innocent. Answer out loud if you haven't raised your hand. And everyone else believes that they can follow the law and require the state to prove the allegations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, in the second section, if you feel that you cannot presume Nicholas Cruz innocent of the charges in this case, please raise your hand. And again, when I call on you, may put your hand down. Okay, I see juror number 20, Miss. Hand down. I see juror number 22. Where's Charlene? Charlene, am I off? Is my... That's supposed to... Thank you. My mistake. Just give me a second.
You're looking at the chart from the last week.
You're kidding. Mixed up out of order. I just need 2 minutes to try to fix this so that I can clear the record and call the right names. Over here, I have so far Miss hand raised as far as those individuals who feel they cannot presume the defendant innocent. Would the rest of you whose name I did not, other than Miss Steve, please raise your hand again. Miss B, number 22. I see juror number 26, Miss, and juror number 31, Miss. Else in this section that feels they cannot presume the defendant innocent of the charges and follow the law in this case as I instruct you. I see juror number, Mr. You can put your hand down, sir, and there was another person with their hand raised. Ms. Hutu? Did I miss anybody? Is there anyone here who does not feel that they speak English 100%? Okay, I commend you, first of all, for knowing more than one language. But if you don't understand 100% of what's going on here, I need you to please raise your hand. If you could put your hand up again, please, I would appreciate it. I see Mr. Who else? Was there another hand in the back? Miss. Is it okay? I see an individual over here. I see Miss. 100%? Okay. And is there anyone else? Okay, thank you. Now this question goes to the whole group, and I'm going to go one section at a time. For any other reason, do you feel that is there anyone that feels they cannot follow the law, presume the defendant innocent of the charges that are before the court, which are, again, attempted aggravated battery on a law enforcement officer, battery on a law enforcement officer, depriving an officer means of protection, and attempted use of a self-defense weapon against a law enforcement officer? Is there anything specific to those charges that makes you feel you cannot presume the defendant innocent and require the state to prove the charges against the defendant? There's no one who's raising their hand in the first section. And how about in the second section? Anything specific to the charges in this case that makes you feel you cannot presume that the defendant is innocent? I see juror number 4, Ms. hand raised. Is there anyone else that I missed? Juror number 21, Ms. Okay. The schedule in this case is as follows. If you are selected to come back, you will be required to return on October 18th at 1 p.m. Again, October 18th at 1 p.m. That's a Monday. Today is a Wednesday, October 6th, in case you don't have your calendar handy. So it is about 10 days from today. It's not this coming Monday, but the following Monday, the 18th. And your service will start at 1 p.m., and then you will be required to return Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday from approximately 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. So it's about 4.5 days of service, if you're selected to come back. We are happy to provide you with current documentation for your employers that indicates you will be serving that week. Also, for your information, if you are a full-time employee, there is a Broward County ordinance that will require not only your job to be held for you, but that you be paid while you are out serving on a jury, which is a very important public service, and it's important for our society, for our system of justice, and our United States Constitution. It's a very important duty, and they're required to pay you. Also, that is the schedule, and I'm going to just repeat it one more time. It is Monday, October 18th at 1 p.m. through and including Friday, October 22nd at 5 p.m. You will be given a piece of paper in case you're one like me who sometimes can't remember things all the time and you need a piece of paper to refresh your memory. You'll be given a piece of paper when you leave that tells you the days and times, but I'm repeating them several times so that everybody thinks, okay, what do I have going on that week? So that when you leave here, you don't say, oh, I forgot to tell the judge something. So again, for the third time, October 18th at 1 p.m. through and including October 22nd at 5 p.m. I'm now going to go through and ask you if you have a great hardship. A great hardship, I'm going to give you an example of what is a great hardship and what's not. If, for example, you have some type of injury that just occurred, you didn't have any notice of it, and it's very painful, and you have several doctor's appointments that are scheduled, and you have to go to physical therapy, and this is something that you could not have anticipated when you got your notice, that you didn't know was going to happen. You came today to try to be a law-abiding citizen and honor your summons, but there's just no way that you can serve because you have this type of situation going on. That would be a great hardship. It's not a great hardship if it's merely an inconvenience for you. You're going to get paid by your employer. You'll have a job to go back to, but it's inconvenient because then you might have to catch up on your work when you get back. That's not a great hardship. So there's a difference between an inconvenience and a great hardship. At this time, by a show of hands, in the first section, if you have a great hardship in serving from October 18th at 1 p.m. through and including Friday, October 22nd at 5 p.m., please raise your hand. Juror number 1, Ms. Lujo. Juror number 2, Mr. Brutus. Is there anyone in the second row? Okay, in the third row, juror number 11. Did I miss anyone? Okay, in the second section, please raise your hand if you feel you have a great hardship as it pertains to the schedule in this case. Please raise your hand. I see juror number 27. Anyone else in the back section who has a great hardship? Okay. The following individuals, when I call your name, you're going to go with the staff. You're going to be excused to returning on October 18th at 1 p.m. If I call your name, please go with the sheriff's office staff, and they're going to walk you out and give you some paperwork. Juror number 6, juror number 7, juror number 12, juror number 13, juror number 16, 18, juror number 19, juror number 24, 25, back row, juror number 30, juror number 32, Okay, except for juror number 15, to just remain seated in the courtroom. The rest of the jurors are excused to report back to the jury room where you may be selected to serve in another case.
Let them just wait outside to be please.
Okay, the jurors have been excused. Mr. Carter, I hate to pick on you, but it's been brought to my attention that you are related by marriage to one of the staff, the BSO staff members who's helping out in court today. Is that correct? Okay, sir, you didn't raise your hand as far as having an issue serving. Do you feel that your relationship to this gentleman's wife, wait, you're not married to his wife, you're married to his brother. You're married, wait a minute. Juror is my wife's brother. Your wife's brother. So he's your brother-in-law.
No. My sister is divorced.
Okay, so you are at one point semi-related.
Yes.
Is there anything about that that makes you feel you cannot be fair and impartial?
Is he the person who, is he actually on trial, or is he one of the people that was assaulted in this particular case?
I'm sorry, I don't know your name, sir. The deputy sheriff that's sitting right here?
Yes.
He's just here working. He's part of the staff. This case has nothing, I don't think. The case has nothing to do with him. He's just been assigned as an individual. We have a lot of individuals from the sheriff's office. We have clerks, we have court reporters, we have people that are here for technology reasons, we have cameramen, we have attorneys. He's just one of us. I don't know whether he'll be assigned here every day of the trial, but he might be. And if you feel that's going to affect your ability to be fair and impartial, then I just need to know. If you think it's not going to affect you, that's fine. If it's going to affect you, that's fine. We just need to know how you feel.
I don't believe that it reflects my ability to be fair and impartial, but as a personal preference, I would, of course, prefer not to be in the same room for multiple days at a time.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
Miss Charlie?
He's going to the jury room.
Yeah. Are we excusing the hot ones?
Yes. The jurors have been excused. I know, Mr. Ehrman, you need to get out of here. What I would like to do is, if you can give myself and my staff a day to regroup to figure out the semantics of Part 2 of jury selection, I'd like to meet with you all either Thursday or Friday to have a pretrial conference to go over how everything's going to take place. My initial thought is to perhaps move to one of the larger courtrooms so that we can easily accommodate approximately 50 in the morning and 50 in the afternoon with somewhat some social distancing measures in place. Whether or not that can be facilitated, I don't know yet, but I'm going to try. What's wrong now? I think we all decided that this was going to be enough.
And we have 106.
I think that's going to be enough. What do you all think?
I think 106 is enough.
That's enough, Judge.
Mr. Irman, I'll leave it up to you, because you're the one that needs to leave. And I'm not trying to put pressure on you, but but I think it should be enough. I mean, we only need 6 jurors. There's 6 peremptories each. So unless there's, I don't know, 90 additional cause strikes, which would mean that 90 people were not saying what they were supposed to be saying, and I'm estimating based on my unskilled mathematic abilities. Okay, so we're in recess.
I would ask that we have a motion in limine prior to beginning the substantive part of jury selection. So if we're going to reconvene,
Yes.
can we have the
Sure.
motion in limine heard at that point?
Sure, I didn't know anything about motion in limine.
Yeah, I filed a motion in limine.
Oh, I did know about that. I'm sorry, I did.
And Your
Sure.
Honor, I also filed a motion for a special jury instruction. I don't know if that can be heard at the same time.
Why don't we do that? Today is Wednesday. Why don't we do that tomorrow afternoon? Are you all available at 1:30 for maybe half an hour?
I'm available.
That's fine. That's fine, Judge.
Because that'll give me the rest of today and tomorrow morning to figure out exactly what needs to be figured out and so on and so forth. Okay?
Yeah, sounds perfect.
And we're going to renumber the jurors also. So we'll get that all done by tomorrow at 1:30. We'll let you know what's going to be going on as far as where jury selection is going to be taking place, and then we'll hear any pre-trial motions so that. Also, you all saw my questionnaire. If you want any questions added to it, please let me know as soon as possible. You can email Nicole, my assistant. You saw my questionnaire yesterday, my general questionnaire?
Could we have Nicole email us a copy of it so that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we can do that, and then I will have the jury room, have the individuals fill those out before they come up, and you all will get, time to look through them, so that if there's anything you want to ask, you'll ask, because keep in mind, I don't ask those questions because you'll have it in writing. You know how a lot of judges go around and they ask, those 15 questions with each juror. The questionnaire, to me, saves a lot of time because some of those people answer no, or NA, and I don't need to do that. So if there's a question that you think needs to be on there that's not on there, please let me know and I will put it on there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. We're in recess. Thank you, everyone. Great job.